kind of new to my channel and you haven't really caught up on everything I've done to make this truck what it is now, there's kind of something to realize about what I do and I do not do. You know, first off, the uploads I do, the videos I do are absolutely constrained by this garage. The truck no longer fits in it, so there's a lot of things I'm not willing to do or just plain don't have the facility for. You see where I live. It's an alleyway that's shared with a whole bunch of other people, so I can't just leave it in the driveway either. That's just the way my life is. When you talk about uploads as far as frequency, I'm in the reserves, so I've got 1 to 2 weekends a month. And yeah, it's 1 to 2. I go multiple times a month a lot of times in the unit I'm in. So there's only a couple weekends left over for me to actually do anything on the truck. And I don't always have this free time and space to do it on the truck. There was a time where I was more consistent and I would get a weekly upload. And that time went away. That time might return too, though. So the future always has changes, right? With this solid axle swap, obviously it's something I needed to hand over to a shop, and I did. It was a shop out of Reno. And they did good work with what they did. You know, and it's the same story. I had a shop down in Utah County do the Pro Charger install. They did good work with what they did. But one of the things you run into is a lot of people, even the decent shops, the good shops, it's not their vehicle. They don't care about it the way you care about it. Or if you want them to, it's going to cost you a heck of a lot more shop time. So it's a balance you play, and it's a frustration you deal with in things not getting completed the way they should have, or the way you might want them to be. And so it has left cleanup for me. Pro Charger is the subject of a whole different video. It mostly works. It mostly does what I need it to do. But what the truck is about to undergo again is more shop time with a shop here locally to fix this whole situation right here. If I were to pull out the tape, I've got about 3 inches of room right back there. I've got about 9 inches of room here. So that is not at all where it needs to be. If you're paying attention close, you can tell the tire's been hitting that fender, the fender flare, and has mangled it up already, which pisses me off. Maybe I should have been more patient in installing those, but I thought that those would have been out of the way, being that they're cut out fender flares. Problem is my cuts that I made on the fenders with the stock fender flares on, they were bigger than what Bushwhacker has in mind. So I hate to think the simple fact is I may end up buying another set of these front ones because this one's so mangled up. I might be able to put it back into place. We'll see. It's ABS plastic, it's flexible enough. But why is it that way? Why does it seem that the entire axle is farther back than it was under the stock IFS system? The answer to that why is right here. This cross member, designed to pick up the transmission. You can see that right there, mounts the transmission. So what it means, and you see what kind of length you've got here, barely got enough engagement there in my mind. I want more for the radius arms. So why is that too short? Quite simply put, the standard WFO kit for an OBS Chevy is designed for a 1500. So the difference in drivetrain is enough to cause this issue. Because a 1500 is going to have a 350 with a 4L60E, whereas a 3/4 ton, or a 1 ton even, is going to likely have a 454 with the 4L80E. You could have the 350, but you're still going to have the 4L80E. Those trucks are woefully underpowered unless you 383 them. But that means basically the mounting point here has slid back, meaning the entire axle comes back. So what we've got to fix, and WFO has been really cool about this, So the shop I'm going to take it to already has the arms, and we're basically replacing the radius arms, because another third order effect this gives is this adjustment right here. I am out of adjustment room there, so I cannot fix the caster problems, which means I get caster wander. And so my steering has never really been what I need it to be. So yeah, I can't adjust the caster anymore. So what WFO is doing is sending some uncut arms. So this will not be welded in yet. The shop I'm going to is going to weld that in. These tabs will not be welded on yet. So they can do all the magic they can do. And here's the honest truth about me and my skill levels. And this is one of those things, you got to know what you can and can't do. I'm a combat engineer. I do dirty, nasty stuff. But I don't know enough about suspension to make this right. And I'd rather hand it to a shop who can make this axle behave like I'm pretty sure it does under a Super Duty. There's no way all of this is that sloppy under a Super Duty truck. But it's adjustments. So the big piece of advice here is, if you are going to do this swap, and it's a great kit, you look at all the welds, you look at all the strength of the members they've used. This whole cross member is a fantastic piece. It's good stuff. Just the engineering and design of it made it so that you don't have to pull everything apart. And you see, you can pull apart here to drop your transmission for servicing it if you need to. Well thought out kit, beautiful kit, nicely manufactured. So it's a great kit. But I think one of the things I'm helping WFO out right now is realize these arm lengths need to change. So if you're going to do one on a 2500 or a 1-ton OBS, make sure you tell them that's what you have. And I would suggest, if you're doing it yourself or if you're sending it to a shop, get these uncut and get them lengthened so you can lengthen them and cut them to your needs. Make sure those aren't attached either. Those tabs aren't there for your upper adjustment. Again, so you can put it where you need to do it, and you can figure all that suspension out, or the shop you're taking it to can. Otherwise, really good kit. And yeah, talking to one of my buddies, I would definitely put this in the realm of a builder's kit. It's absolutely a builder's kit. So being a builder's kit, it didn't come with the Liberate straps, it didn't come with the bump stots. Those are things the shop in Reno hooked up for me. I'm trying to remember what else was kind of missing. But you're gonna get 95% of what you need to make this happen. Another issue that cropped up, and I'm not sure where this happened, but this should be reversed. That bend should be going outward, much like the bends here are. So that's my drag link for the pitman arm. It's the wrong way, which is causing steering interference. I've got rubs on that bolt. I can definitely feel it when I steer. I'm not sure where that happened. I don't think HRC in Reno would have done that. I'm guessing the alignment rack did that, because it's solidly in place. It's not like any of this is loosened up. So we got to fix all of that. Another thing that's got to be fixed. So my pan hard bar, track bar, whatever you want to call it. Its bracket is inside of these cool towers that WFO did. I'm betting it's got to move there, which means the brakes have got to move a little bit too, but I'm pretty sure there's plenty of slack in the ABS and the actual hydraulic lines. And those are bolted on anyway, so that's an easy move. Just a new bracket over here somewhere. Well, we got to get a lot of that out of the way. Not sure this sway bar is going to stay, even with how much I put into making that thing actually work. I've got to have a sway bar on this truck though, because this truck mainly spends its time on the road, unfortunately. It is my daily dad driver. So dad's taxi, that's what this thing is. It just happens to be able to get me out in the mountains on the few weekends I actually get to be able to do that. So that's another thing WFO is going to do, is send a whole number to one of these brackets. So we got a fresh one to start with. So they've been cool. They've been real cool about that. But all of this means I'm basically not going to have a couple uploads for, I don't know, the week or so that it takes for this to get done. But that's kind of how that works, is when you endeavor to put something under there that the factory should have done from the get-go, And that's my whole mind, is they never should have done 3/4 ton and up. And even to today's trucks, GM should have never done 3/4 ton and up trucks with IFS. They should have been a Dana 60 solid axle. 1 tons, you could argue those things should be Dana 70. But a 3/4 ton should have been a 60. So that's where the factory failed us on that one. And I know though, the bean counters, the systems engineers, they look at the likely usage of the trucks and how much they will or will not do, and they do what's most convenient and inexpensive to them. I understand how that works. Still not right for those of us that do want to use these trucks. And I know we're in the minority. I get it. Still not right. So you end up having to do something like this, or you go the easier route. The easiest route is buy a truck that already has all this under it. Ram does theirs, 3/4 ton and up, are done with solid axles, as they should be. And so that is an option. You get a mega cab Ram. And so you got a little bit of carrying capacity there. Not as much as a Suburban would, because you're not going to get the up to 9 seats that you could do in a Suburban. But I mean, that's the game we play. I wanted a Suburban. I needed its carrying capacity, so this is what I'm doing. And at this point, with a solid axle already slung under here, there's no going back. So, turn the truck in tomorrow. Should be a few seconds for you. You'll see the results. So yeah, the riv nuts did exactly what I needed to do. Makes them easier to take that off. Real simple. Less damage to sheet metal if you're using actual sheet metal screws like they provide you with. It also shows you now how bound up I got that thing in there. So yeah, it torqued it loose of the bite it had on the back of the sheet metal. But man, was that off. That was my bad. You don't get them square on, you're liable to do that. So I've got 2 of them on this one that had that problem, here and here. The thing that sucks is with that whole problem with the arm lengths and everything, because this thing got impacted several times, it's all jacked up. Every single one of these is cracked. That's smashed and cracked. In here is smashed and cracked. Hate to say it, but I don't know, call it my impatience. Should have waited until I had it fixed. But that entire situation with those arms, I mean, that's all this damage in here. Those didn't work out the way I wanted them to. All of it. All because it was the wrong length arms. But those are now the right length arms. You can tell I've got a lot different going right up in there. A lot different spacing and everything on the arms. And they were able to get the caster to like 5 or 6 degrees, about where you want it to be for this axle, this truck. So it handles down the road a whole lot more. Brand used tires to me. They've had a little bit of off-road time. So there's some chunks in the tread blocks, but otherwise, lots of good deep tread depth. They're 38s, which is what I wanted this truck built for in the first place. Granted, if you know the specs on these things, the ridge grapplers in the 38 1250 R17 are only a load range C. But that still gives you about 3,100 pounds per tire at max PSI. So more than enough to carry what I carry. When I do tow with this truck, it's most likely going to be a U-Haul trailer. So nothing too heavy, nothing too serious. It just needs to carry me, my family, our camping gear. Or long road trips, our suitcases, whatever it is. Yeah, now I've got to figure this stuff out. Because I want to get this fender flare back on as best I can. And I hate to say it, but I got to order a new set of front fender flares, because the other side is just as bad, just as cracked up and stuff, because the tire was hitting. So, speaking of which, yeah, cracked up in here. That's a little bent and out of shape. So it's not the same place it exactly was, but let's check out the measurements we have now. Take that bend out, and I've got like 4.5 inches there. Whereas before, I have to go back and look in the videos, it was a lot shorter, right? So 4.5 inches there. And about 6 inches there. That's more appropriate. That means under compression, under turn, this is not going to impact there. Well, it might hit this one because of the bends, but it shouldn't impact it. But here you can see all the cracking and stuff's been done because the 37s were impacting. Now just driving around in places I know I would have impacted before, I've got no impacts on 38s. So you think, yeah, just a ½ inch difference. They're a little bit bigger by a ½ inch, but let's check this out for a second. After the adventure on I-15 with a blowout, I did put together a tire change kit, I'll call it, but it's basically centered around. And yeah, I'm an old dude, Gen X. It's funny to say I'm old, I'm 46, but DeWalt's are what I use. DeWalt's are what I've had for 25 years now, so that's what I've got. But yeah, so centered around an electric impact. Socket sizes. This one's pretty cool. The charger's actually made for 12 volt, so I can charge stuff in the vehicle. Ratchets and extensions, just simple stuff I'd need. I am going to keep a couple lug nuts in it as well, spares. These are the ones. Those just came off of here. I'm just keeping them safe there. But yeah, let's check out some tires. So there it is. 315/75 R16 KO1 BFGAT. 371250 R17 in the Discoverer STT Pros. 381250 R17 Nitto Ridge Grapplers. It does kind of have a step thing, wholly unscientific here. As you can see, there's probably about an inch of difference here between what would be a 35 and the 37. You can see I'm probably about halfway through the tread depth of this thing's capabilities, which gives you, it gives you a little bit more, maybe an inch, a full inch more on the 38 because of tire wear on this. But that's kind of your differences and comparisons. So yeah, jumping to the 38 from a 37 is not that big a deal. But from a 35, which is what I was running this truck on for a long time, was the BF Goodrich in 35s. Going up to a 38, that's quite a significant bump up. Looking at the way this tire's crowned, I may want to let about 5 PSI out of these tires. I may do that because I think I checked one of the tires that said 40. Max for these on the tire sidewall says 35, so I may go down to 35 with them. I'm looking at that crown being a little more than I would like. Probably give me bad tread wear. Tell you this though, worn down mud terrains, the noise they were making, these are so nice now. But yeah, so that's more what I wanted it to be. Might like more axle width on this to fill out the fenders a little bit more. It's already on spacers, but semantics. I am gonna have to run bare with this. Putting the H2s and the 38s on that mounting plate doesn't work. I'm gonna have to rebuild that, which means I'll have to cut it out, change its distance. I don't know if it has to come in or out. I haven't seen it yet. I'm gonna go back to Impulse and get that spare and then figure out what I gotta do, slice, dice, re-weld, whatever. But I'll make it work. As far as what I built the actual bucket, as I would call it down here for, I can probably fit a 40 in here just fine, so a 38 will be all right. Yeah, I've got room for 40s. Don't know that I'll ever do that, because if I do 40s, that means I am going to have to change the gearing in the axles. 48 gears, 37s, 38s are about right for it. So it's probably what I'm gonna stay at, is this size tire. I do like the tall and narrow. All right, there we go, old school air-powered cutoff. Didn't do too much damage to the original hole, so I can put another nut cert in. I think it's probably hot to touch, so I don't want to touch it. But I just slice across the flange on the outside, and that gets it to push through. Yeah, that's hot. Ooh, don't touch that. But that's all you got to do, is just slice it and push it through. Now you got to be real careful of your sheet metal, obviously, but now I can just put another riv nut in there and hope this time I can drive it in correctly. Okay, this hole I did booger up a little bit right in there, trying to get the cut. Difficult angle. I didn't have the right angle to really see. A little boogered up, so I'm going to do this. And hopefully the grabbing portion will grab the back side of the fender enough that I'll be okay. One of these days I need to come back here and put some sheet metal on all this stuff and zip it all in there with a spot weld a bunch of stuff in there basically, and close that gap and make this fender one piece again. All right, you never know till you try. So I've now basically got a washer with a rivet on it. That's now garbage. I don't know of any way I could ever use that again. It's kind of cool though, shows you exactly how those work. So that's not gonna work. All right, it's in there. It seems tight enough. We'll see how long it holds. So just to be real careful when I'm gently driving in those stainless steel button head screws. We'll see if it works. All right, so not the most action-packed video, but probably give you some good ideas of what you want when you do a solid axle swap for your GMT 400, 88 to 98 Chevy. You need that space back there. You also need space up here, so it should be centered in whatever your hole is. My hole is dictated by those Bushwhacker fender flares. Figure out what they are, then figure out where to place your axle. And then pay close attention to which arms you get. As you get the wrong arms, you're gonna be all kinds of upset. As now you look, I do have room here to adjust caster. There's plenty of engagement on the threads back there. So now those arms are what they should be and should have been from the get-go. So like I say, if you're doing it yourself and you got all the right tools and you got a hot enough welder, so on and so forth, then it's probably best to have your arms unassembled, get the longest lengths they can get, and then you figure out where you're burning in those tabs and how long that needs to be from there to there. Now WFO, they were using as a reference when they designed this thing, and again, I love their cross member, fantastic cross member, but they're looking at this right here. And you know, I mean, it's where the frame is put together. That's a pretty good reference point of where you want the axle from that point. It's the same on both sides. Body mount probably serves the same purpose. But that right there, that distance there is how far forward you want to make sure the axle is, both sides, you get it square. Your placement of your cross member is dictated by your transmission. Yeah, that piece right there, that does come unattached, so you can play around with it depending on your transmission lead or needs, where yours is at, depending on whether you're manual, whether you're 1 ton, half ton, whatever you are. It's a builder's kit. This is not a kit where you're just gonna get instructions. It's not a kit where they're gonna tell you this is exactly how it goes. It's not like getting a Trailmaster or a Rancho or whatever IFS lift kit where it's pretty freaking simple and the pictures almost make it self-explanatory. This is a builder's kit. So you've got to have everything done. Again, like I said, they don't give you bump stops. They don't give you limiting straps. Provide your own. They give you some pretty well manufactured arms and the pieces to go with it. And that cross member is fantastic. That's the best stuff you're getting out of this whole kit. Of course, they give you your drag links and your tie rod and all that kind of stuff. And your track bar and all that stuff is pretty well bent up to what it needs to be. Takes a lot of the work out of that. So again, really good kit. Just don't expect it to be like putting on a standard commercial lift kit. It's not that. And like I said, I mean, now that I've been through this with WFO, they probably know the difference between a 3/4 ton and a 1 ton and a half ton and a 3/4 ton, I should say. But I'd be very careful. I think if I did this again, and I would use their kit again, I would get the arms undone. I'd get them totally unmanufactured, just basically raw. And you get those pieces welded up and make sure this is full length of cut. So that way you can shorten it or lengthen it to where you need it to be. These tabs are not attached, so you can put them where they need to be. My advice, save yourself the heartache that I've had. Otherwise, new tires, axle's where it should be. Because of the damage done to these and because of my impatience of putting those on, I've got to order a new set of these. That sucks, but it's what it is. Hopefully this does you some good and gives you some answers, some thoughts, plenty of a view of what you've got here. I'm not pulling tape because your truck's going to be different unless you've got a 3/4 ton Suburban just like me. But yeah, I'm not going to pull tape. You've got to figure it out yourself, or you got to find a shop that knows exactly what they're looking at and a shop that realizes it's a builder's kit. You can't go off of whatever measurements somebody provides you. You've got to figure it out yourself, which is what Impulse Off-Road did for me. They got the arms, this is the second set of arms from WFO, and they put it all together. Again, cannot caution that enough. Hopefully it does you some good if you're considering one of these WFO kits. Again, I would tell you absolutely consider their kit. It's a good kit. But that's about all I have to say on this whole subject, so appreciate you watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.